In the last video, we looked at keyboard input in microworlds. We saw that we could, echo what's in the keyboard using read char, and having a process that's going forever and ever and ever in the background here. In Code Sculptor, things work a little bit differently. Oh, this is an example, actually. They came from this course, I think I mentioned it before, called An Introduction to Interactive Programming in Python. Really awesome course that I just finished taking. And these are the guys that built Code Sculptor, and highly recommend checking it out at some point next time it becomes available. But anyway, so this is a program that, let me just show you what it does first. Puts up a window with a teeny tiny canvas here. I'm going to type a letter, so I'm going to type the letter A, and look what happens. Next to key, it says down A, and it types an A there. And then when the key goes up, the A goes away. So already we have something cool going on with Code Sculptor that you don't have in microworlds, which is it senses both key down. So if I press the D down, you see that key go down, but also key up events. And if you've ever been frustrated in microworlds trying to build something that, like a turtle that moves as long as you're holding down the key and then stops moving when you lift the key up or something like that, you'll appreciate this, how cool it is to have key down and key up. So let me just step through what's going on here. So actually, the way this works is that in Code Sculptor, the key input stuff is implemented with key handlers, with a key down handler and a key up handler. Okay, so just like you have a draw handler, we saw button handlers earlier, you can have a key down handler and a key up handler. Okay, and that's in the docs here. Again, for all the simple GUI stuff, you go to the graphics tab, look at the control objects, and there it is, set key down handler. Okay, and they have examples of stuff, and here's a ball position control example. I mean, we'll probably look at that one at some point too. All right, so let's see here. All right, so what's going on? So we have our event handlers. So what this is saying, first of all, we have this, we import our simple GUI, right? We have this global variable. So they say initialize state. So you know how in microworlds you have different state variables for your turtle. Excuse me. So I have a turtle here, and open up the backpack, I can see all these are state variables, right? The X core, the Y core. That's why this is called the state tab. Okay, so in Code Sculptor, we initialize the state by setting up our global variables. So we have this global variable current key equals, and it's just a space there. So it's just a space character with quotes around it. Okay, so then we set up our event handlers. Our key down handler is going to fire when we put the key down, because down here you see where we register it. We say frame set key down handler key down. So whenever we put our key down, we set our current key to, oh, this is interesting. We have chur of key. Okay, so what's going on there? Well, actually, this key that we get is the ASCII version of the key. So just like you can translate, a regular character into ASCII, so you also have, I'm pretty sure if you just say char 97, yeah, it turns it back into an A. So you can convert a character into its ASCII number, or you can convert an ASCII number into a character in MicroWorlds, and it's the same thing over here, except what's different is when you do a read char in MicroWorlds, what you get is the character, the A, B, C, or whatever, and then you can convert that into ASCII. In Code Sculptor, this key that you get is the ASCII number, and then you convert that into a character with this function CHR, which is short for character. Okay, so you convert when you say current key equals CHR of key, you're setting this. You're converting whatever was input here. You're converting this ASCII number into a character, putting it into the current key. And notice we need to have global here because we're changing the value of this global variable. So we need to make sure that we let Code Sculptor and let Python know that this is a global. And then we have for key up, we get an ASCII in here, and it's the same idea, right? But for key up, what we're doing is changing it back into a space character, so that when we draw the text for it, it'll just draw as a space. We won't be drawing anything. Then we have this. Then we have our draw handler, right? So we've also set up a draw handler called draw, and what that does is it's going to draw the current key, which is, if the key's down, it's going to be, whatever key we pressed. We'll convert that ASCII into the character that it is, and it's going to draw in this position, this size, and it's going to be red. Okay, so this is our draw text. And where's the draw text stuff? That's also in here. That's going to be in Canvas, right? Because it has to do with drawing. So we have a canvas.drawText. You have other examples in here. Okay, so that's the. So then we just draw whatever it is that the current key is. Okay, so that's it. That's all there is to our event handlers. And then so we can just create a frame called echo. This is the size of our canvas. It's just a tiny canvas, 35 by 35. We register our event handlers, and we start going. Okay, so that's how that runs. Okay, I hit G, types of G, and so on. Okay, you'll notice also, so in general, like I've compared before these event handlers to rules in MicroWorlds. So there's no key down rule over here, right? We have to use rechar. But if you look at buttons, and that's a good example. You can put instructions into buttons, right? Let me go back to the one we were looking at. So for this button, echo keyboard was the instruction that we had. So you can add, there are certain things where MicroWorlds, there's certain things that MicroWorlds supports as events, where you can kind of use event handlers and register event handlers in the rules thing. And then there are things that are events in Code Sculptor that aren't necessarily considered events in MicroWorlds. Okay, but also remember, like when we were doing the collision detection stuff, on touching is not an event in Code Sculptor. That's something we had to program. So that's just something to be aware of, that the way that different design decisions were made by the people who put Code Sculptor together and by the people who put MicroWorlds about what was going to be automatically handled as events and what was going to be something that you had to program in. But so that's the basics of handling keyboard input, and then we'll next move on to how we use keyboard input to control the action on the screen.